This video will give you the essential knowledge that you need to get started in Final Cut. Final Cut's easy to use when you know how. Just watch this video, it's only 20 minutes, and you'll save many hours of time trying to work it out for yourself. No need to search the internet for Final Cut videos, it's all in this tutorial. You can work along with the actual clips, and if you look in the description below, you'll see a link and you can download these free to use clips. And if you haven't got time to go through the whole video, save it. You can see how to do that in the description below, and there are timestamps there so you can jump to any point in the video and be able to see what you want to know at the time that you want to know it. I'm Bruce McBride, and I can provide one-on-one personal tuition over the internet. Just click in the link trainingfinalcutpro.com. But for now, I want to show you how to quickly get working in Final Cut. First, create a new library and save it to your hard disk. Best to put it on a fast external hard disk or an SSD if you have one. By default, Final Cut Pro creates a new event and gives it today's date. You also need to create a project. Select New from the File menu, New Project. There's an automatic mode, and that will use the format of your footage, or you have some choices. We'll use the auto mode here, but click the eye above for a video that explains the choices and a more detailed way to start editing. Once you've created the project, the icon with the striped lines at the top, it will appear in your browser under several positions in the sidebar. We'll look at this in more detail once we've started the edit. Your next step is to import some footage. Drag your footage from the computer or use the downward arrow. I'll use the arrow. Select your clips. Now this next part is important. In the right panel, select Copy to Library. Select Create Optimized Media. And the other settings, leave them as they are for now. Select Import. Now I'd like to discuss the sidebar that we looked at a moment ago. When you're selected on the library, you see all the contents of the library. In fact, when you're on either of the other two at the moment, you'll also see everything. But let's change that. Select File menu, select New Event. Select that event in the sidebar. There's nothing in it, which simply means this event doesn't have anything in it yet, but it is ready for you to import something into it. Click the event above. It does have content. Now click on the right pointing arrow next to Smart Collections. When you're selected on Smart Collections, you see different selections of what the library contains. Select All Video. You now can only see your video clips. Select Audio, and now you can only see audio. Select Favorites. Well, you haven't got any as yet. Press the F key when any selection is made in the browser. A green bar appears above. Select Projects and your project appears. Select Stills and your stills appear. I'm going to spend a bit more time here on further clip organization before we start to edit. And if you're not concerned about organization, then best to skip this next section and go to this timestamp, which will take you to placing clips in the timeline. There is a brilliant way of organizing and categorizing the pre-edited clips prior to the actual edit. When you've got a lot of footage, it's much better to pre-edit the clips, organize them into good, usable, or maybe needed clips. It's also helpful to have your outdoor scenes and those of different subjects kept together, so you can quickly access them when you're on a roll in the actual edit, so you don't lose your flow looking for that clip that you know is somewhere in the footage. Final Cut Pro will do some of this automatically on import. It will recognize scenes with people in them and create collections, one person, two persons, or wide shots. Favorites are a way of categorizing your clips, but favorites are all lumped together in one category. Final Cut has keywords and smart collections. You've already seen some of the smart collections created for you. You can make your own based on metadata in the footage. I won't go into that at this stage, but if you're into organization, I'll be uploading a video on this for more advanced users. The really useful feature is keywords, and this will allow you to pre-edit portions of a clip that you want in your edit. Keywords could be words as outdoors, animals, or buildings. But for this example here, let's work on 3 keywords to categorize the quality of the footage you're about to edit. So we'll have good shots, usable shots, and maybe usable shots. You'll guess what will be contained in these categories. The good will be used, the usable most likely used, and the maybe if you're short of footage in the edit. Select the first clip, 0004. This is a very short clip, so I'll need all of this, so we're going to put that with the good label. Make sure the whole clip has a yellow outline and press Command K and type in good shots. Expose the arrow to the left of the event and you'll see that keyword. Click on it and there's the 0004. Now back to the event and select 0005. I only want a small portion of this for the good, so I'll click and drag that portion so the yellow outline appears. Now drag that yellow portion in the good keyword. View the keyword so you can see that one has the whole clip and the other is just a portion of the clip. Now go to 0012 and select a small portion of that at the beginning. Press Command plus K and type maybe shot. Select a portion of clip 0048. Press Command plus K, type usable shot. Now check your event. There are the keywords for you to start your edit with. Now let's get on with the edit. We'll move some clips into the timeline. Select your clip or portions of the clip in the browser and move these into the timeline with either E, W or Q keys. And they're in the middle menu bar here. Or you can drag your clips into the timeline if you're used to doing that. You can edit the timeline, shorten and lengthen clips, move, adjust audio. And you can use the range tool. Click R on the keyboard, change the height of the clip by selecting a film strip icon in the middle menu bar. Now drag the yellow cursor over the area you want to change. Drag the audio line up and down. We'll look at where transitions are located. To the far right of your screen in the middle menu bar, you'll see the transition icon. Click it. This is made up of a sidebar of categories, and the panel on the right has the content of these categories. There's a total of all categories at the top, all, and at the bottom is a search field that will search each category or all if that is selected. You can add third-party transitions and effects, and these are both called plugins, so you can really build up your range of effects. I suggest you search Google Final Cut Pro plugins to get an idea of the options. There are hundreds of companies offering them. To add a transition, they go in between clips. That's known as an edit point. So, click on an edit point and double-click the transition, or select the transition in the browser and drag it to an edit point. And now effects. We'll select the effects button. They are shown in the same way as transitions with a sidebar of categories that show the content in the right panel. And these show both video and audio effects. So let's just look at one of these and I'll select comic effects. And this is the same process as with transitions. There's an inspector, and this is similar in concept to Keynote or Photoshop. Here you can adjust and modify items in the timeline, including effects and transitions and any clip in the timeline. Select the clip in the timeline you've just added the effect to. Open the inspector. It's the tab at the top right in Final Cut window next to the Share tab. At the top of the inspector there are 4 icons at the moment. A film strip, a triangle pointing down to the left, a speaker symbol, and an eye for information. The active tabs turn blue and the others will be white. Click the film strip icon. You'll see the comic effect at the top of the inspector. You'll be able to modify it here. Effects can be disabled by clicking on the blue tick mark. You'll see many other items in the inspector, and we'll look at these as we're using titles and generators, which are accessed from the top left in Final Cut. It's a T on a white background, and that turns blue when selected. There are two major categories behind that tab: titles and generators. Let's first look at titles. Click the right pointing arrow to the left of the word titles. These are listed in much the same way as transitions and effects, with categories in the left sidebar and the contents in the right panel. The search is at the top right, and search is on the selected category only. To get you going, let's just use a simple one there to give you the idea. Select Build In, Out, and select Continuous in the right panel. Drag it above the clips in your timeline, or between two clips. The word title appears in the viewer. You can click on this and position it where you want in the viewer. Look in the inspector and you'll see a new tab at the top in blue, and the word title is highlighted. Start typing now and your words will change. If you look further down the inspector, you'll be able to change fonts and make other text adjustments. Scroll to the bottom of the inspector to Face and hover to the right and click Show to change the colour of the text. Let's select red. Whenever you make changes in the inspector, you can undo those changes by clicking on the curly arrow, always at the far right of the selection. And now 3D text. Make sure the text is highlighted at the top. Then scroll down and tick the box next to 3D text. Scroll up until you see rotation. Click and move the X, Y and Z circles. Click the T tab that now shows at the top of the inspector to see further adjustments. From here we'll look at generators. Close the Titles tab and expose the Generators tab. Let's use textures for background. Drag grunge into the timeline. Go to the inspector and select different textures next to type. Generators are where you will store opener templates from third-party developers. And for instance, let's have a look at this one that I put in here. This is a simple one to open the yacht racing. As I mentioned earlier, there are many other adjustments to be made in the inspector. And let's look at those that you will need to know when you're beginning this adventure with Final Cut Pro. And the first we'll look at is the audio. Click on a video clip in the timeline that has audio attached. Look in the inspector and click on the speaker symbol. The things you need to know at this early stage are, you can click on audio analysis and you'll see that at this stage it's saying not analysed. But click on the magic wand and it will auto-analyse for you. Green ticks will show where it's tried its best. Or you can try your own adjustments. That's trial and error. I've got to say there's a lifetime of knowledge to get audio right, so don't be too disappointed on what you achieve. Sometimes it's better to leave things alone until you've learnt more. Now, audio monitoring. Click on the audio meters in the middle menu bar. A bigger version will appear at the far right of your effects browser. And this is what you should remember. Audio levels should peak between -12 and -6. Never over 0. And if they do go over 0, you'll get a red warning light. Turn it down. If you watch while the video is playing, little white lines are at the top of the green meters to show where the peaks have been. This is what indicates the -12 to -6 range. And finally, I'll give you a taste of the color corrections and also the instant color changes you can make with video looks. Select a clip in the timeline. Click on the triangle in the inspector and it will turn multicolored. Click on Corrections and select Color Board. and this will get you started at least. But I suggest you progress to using the colour wheels as soon as you can, because they're much more flexible. But in the meantime, using the colour board. There are 3 tabs at the top. From the left, colour, saturation and exposure. You always start from the right hand side. Did I say that again? You always start from the right hand side. Exposure. This changes the brightness. There are 4 dots in the window and they're represented below as master, shadows, midtones and highlights. The colours of the dot represent the shades that you're going to change. To get a feel for it, move the white dot all the way up to add brightness and all the way down to darken. This just changes the brightest area in the video. I have to say that when you're making changes, only move a little bit, but by moving all the way as you have here, you can see the range that is available. Do the same with midtones and black. The master changes all 3 shades in one go. And a tip for beginners. And from experience, unless you really have bright daytime images, only increase the highlights and just decrease the mids and blacks to compensate. If you increase mids and blacks for darker images, you'll introduce grain or shimmer in the video. And now the saturation tab. And this has got the same concept dots as the exposure has. Master, shadows, midtones and highlights. And these increase and decrease the amount of colour in the image. But be careful, don't overdo the increase in colour. It can make the images look very unrealistic. And then finally, there's the colour tab. This lets you change the colour tones of the image, and it has the same concept of the 4 dots, but this time the master is in the main window. And before you make any changes, understand this. There's a centre line. When you drag a dot above the line, you increase that colour shown in the image. When you drag a dot below the line, you decrease the amount of that colour, but at the same time increase an opposing colour. For instance, drag the highlight dot into the blue. The bright parts of the image turn blue. Drag it directly down and it'll turn green. Drag the master dot to the top of the green. Now drag it to the bottom of the green. It'll be magenta. Now for a dramatic way of changing colour without having to go through all of the above. And this process uses colour looks. Select a clip in the timeline. Select your effects browser. Scroll the left sidebar until you see looks. Hover your mouse over the thumbnails in the right panel. You'll get a preview of how they will change the clip in the timeline. To use them, drag the thumbnail inside the clip in the timeline. And one last word on colour correction. Move the dots dramatically to see what's possible, but have your final adjustment as small as possible. Work on the principle, a little bit is too much. And last but not least, exporting or sharing. Make sure your timeline is selected. Click on the share button at the top right and select Master File. Select the Settings tab. Select Video Codec and select H.264. If you look down a little, you'll see the likely size of the file. Select Next. You'll now be able to save your file. And when the file is saved, you'll get a notification at the top right of your screen, and that will let you go to that file. And there's one important extra that I'd like to point out. You can export just a portion of the timeline. So let's do that. Select a clip in the timeline, press the R key and drag a range selection. Now go to the share menu as you did before, and this time when you look in the window, you'll see the shorter length of your range selection that's about to be exported. Oh, and at the beginning I mentioned split screen images. These can be done in Final Cut. Click the link above to find out how. I'm sure you're aware you've covered a vast range of items in this video. I'd suggest you save it below and come back to view it again in a day or so. It's unlikely that you will have absorbed everything, first or even second time through. And if I can leave you with one thought, just jump in and get started. But best not to learn on a project that has a deadline, as you'll be stressed to get finished and miss out trying different things out. I hope you've learnt a lot from this video. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe and press the bell. There are new videos every Sunday.